Okay, so you are almost familiar with the basic ideas of Marxism, right? Marxism, we need to understand some terms like in single sentence, like class conflict, theory of surplus value, materialism, this dialectical method, it turns out to be historical materialism, economic determinism, dictatorship of proletariat. Some terms, but the underlying idea is that definitely these ideas are a response to inequalities in the society following the advent of capitalism, which was rooted in the notion of private property and competition. Earlier proposals were given by some writings by who are known as utopian or scientific socialists give the tag of utopian socialism to some people, who tried for some kind of ethical capitalism. That's it. But why scientific means they analyze how history has progressed throughout. And they are analyzing how different superstructures means institutions like state, family, religion. Superstructure means that which is built upon the foundation or something. Substructure means foundation. That is the economic system, capitalism, that is dependent upon private property. Everything else is governed by this. A moment in history will come where the proletariats or the class which is not owning the private property, they will have the class consciousness that they have been exploited continuously by the property owning class or the bourgeois through various kind of class instruments. There is a kind of irreconcilable difference. There is no middle path between these two classes. At that moment revolution will occur, and after that, for the time being, state will exist. That is the dictatorship of proletariats. And slowly but steadily, the state will wither away, will go away, and it will culminate in an idealist communist society where there is no private property. You see, it started with the notion of, collective ownership of the means of production, collective ownership of the goods, resources, that's it. Earlier societies. But, even though we are reaching the same state again, now humanity has learned. Why it is better? Because humanity has learned how to make use of the resources for their own betterment. As time progresses, always the later stage will be better than the previous one. That's it. Fine. This is the essential thought. If you know this means that's enough. Right? In order to deliver better answers in paper two, you shouldn't study much. ऐसे कौन कहेगा नहीं मतलब you shouldn't study much means if you read a lot means you miss out this fundamental thoughts. You may be getting questions like, is there any relevance of Marxism in the present day world? You will have a commonsensical thought, natural thought. See, while discussing philosophy of religion, we brought in some questions. I don't know how many. Instantaneously, I would have discussed some questions. You created answers. There was a commonsensical means of thought in you. I was just adding on how to link with the thinkers and all a bit. When you study a lot means you miss out that instinct actually. Really, it happens. So where to fix it, that's another thing. But now your best will be there. When we discuss an answer means you are going to hit it on targets. On target, you will be addressing it properly. After some time, what happens is like, particularly it happens in second or third attempts. After writing, मतलब second या third means उतना तो लिखने का इच्छा नहीं है ना. So just focus, you will be in good position. Bas. Okay, come back. You will be getting questions like this, relevance of Marxism. Some thoughts are going on in your mind. No need to say it now. I will discuss it next week. Right? I told you. After the session, I am planning to finish. Planning to take classes daily this week. When you finish by Friday or Saturday. Next week, one day we will have question discussion of socio-political, and it's next week on philosophy of religion. Just take part. That's it. No need to write and all. Just take part. You'll have a better clarity. Planning for evening this week. इतना तो morning ले लिया. This week we can have evening. Okay, this is my plan. So we will see the questions there. So what are the criticisms you feel? The prominent criticisms against it are like, history is not always deterministic. There are many accidental factors. And where you are seeing always history moving on in a positive direction. Simply you can cite like the world wars came soon after the age of enlightenment in Europe. And we are yet to see what is known as the ideal communist society. And historically, autocracy or totalitarian state, complete authority was the one which followed the dictatorship of proletariat, along with that, the dictatorship of proletariat in USSR. Right? And also we have other views like state is a positive good. We have views for that. That's it. And we won't see, that much of criticisms going into how Marx conceives the human personality or character. Very less scope for that. Many years back, a question was asked, not in specific to Marx, but the political thoughts are centered around how a particular thinker who is propounding that thought understands the human being. It's a very good question to discuss, but a very, dangerous question to write in the exam. How you are going to create that? Very, lovely to listen that kind of use. See, even when I discussed in the class, वो तो है कि, that वो तो after teaching, after setting question, seeing paper, वो चीज आता है. Okay, this is what they are trying to ask. How can one create answer in 10 minutes? As an appreciation, you can make a statement like that. John Rawls is understanding human person like this. Mahatma Gandhi is understanding human person like this. Rousseau is understanding like this. How to relate it with their ideology is very difficult actually. But since it is being asked, we can think how it can be created. That's another thing. But for the first time when you are seeing a question, at times like if your instincts are working really well, वो भी तो होता है. Just like you are going to deliver a speech. Somehow it clicked, but we won't take that. Anyhow, Marx conceives human being in a particular way. मतलब है कि उसको private property नहीं चाहिए. That is the best way. It's not so. Right? Human beings have got self-interest. Human beings perform better in a state of freedom. Private, even, human relationships. People ask for private time, private space and all. So private property क्यों नहीं? Right? That's fine. Last class, one of you are citing na, the endpoint. Animals, even animals do have tendency. It's true. They have also tendency. Right? So general criticisms are there just like that of M. and Roy and all. We should write that. Fine. He was also a Marxian one time, but we need to recognize the work of a capitalist. There are good capitalists. and also their risk-taking appetite, their managerial skills, that also plays, an important role in running a company. And maybe we can think like in a long term, citing the Kuznets theory, Kuznets curve, one sentence, right? मुझे भी इतना ही पता है, one sentence. Kuznets curve means in long term, capitalism, the inequality will get bridged, right? Immediately, it may be like 80% of the profit is appropriated, the surplus value is appropriated in the name of profit by the capitalist. After some time, when many companies come, the workers understand their rights, they bargain. Means surplus means 30% of the surplus value will be with the owner of the factory, right? Okay. And also there are other brands of socialism. Just understand evolutionary, not always revolution is inevitable. Through the medium of state, maybe like the brand of socialism in countries like India. You cannot criticize the brand of socialism in India. We can criticize, but you cannot say like, that is outdated or something. जब तक है preamble में तब तक तो, it's there. So that evolutionary methods are there. And what I feel like is nowadays that last year I was suggesting to people, utopian socialism is not so utopian. Capitalists voluntarily concerned about the workers means we have the idea of trusteeship in Gandhian thought. And also many corporate companies, they are involving, voluntarily taking part in activities to ensure better work culture, welfare schemes for their workers. Many people are satisfied with their jobs actually, very much satisfied with the work culture out there. And some companies are offering stakes to, the senior employees, the workers. Right? And there is something like ESG that you will see in papers like ethics. Here means one sentence. In CSR means voluntary, company is doing something. Then in the broader interest of themselves as well as the society, they will keep in mind, the environmental consequences, social consequences, and they create governance mechanisms accordingly. Maybe in 2026 ethics paper, it may be coming. मतलब corporate governance एक तो है, this one has not been asked. It can come. Likewise, in philosophy paper too, it won't come. But we can cite if you are getting questions on, utopian socialism or something, this can come present day. It shows the understanding application level of candidate in the present day context. That you will get scope to write examples. You don't have to create that. Going through few discussions, you will be able to create. Right? For example, when you say relevance of Gandhian philosophy, suddenly you are being asked a question, relevance of Gandhian philosophy in present day India. We'll cite something. Even as an example, you can cite the 72nd and 72nd and 73rd, no? Yeah, 73rd and 74th regarding to local self-government. मैं तो प्रीलिम्स के लिए नहीं पढ़ रहा हूँ, तो जानता हूँ. Okay, right? That's an example. Like cooperatives, right? Even we can say the trusteeship. I would love to equate it with the ESG, ethical capitalism. But not as an honor, they consider society as a whole. So from the perspective of a checker, you will feel like, the candidate knows the theory and in bits and pieces able to link with what is in the present. I will show you. In this paper, unlike others, in this paper, we have that scope. It's not current affair. Don't think that, generally we say you don't need current affair in philosophy. It's not current affair. कहीं पे भी current affair उतना नहीं चाहिए. But some examples that resonates with the checker. That's it. My target is that only. That makes the examiner's job easy. They should feel like, wow, something has been written there. बस मुझे इतना ही चाहिए, right? From your answers, examiner should feel like that. Okay. So we need to know about, when you discuss Marxism, contrast it with evolutionary and even the so-called utopian. It's not so utopian. That's enough. And another, important area is anarchism. They also say state is an unnecessary evil. Why? Circumstances, right? Based on different circumstances. Let's say you are living in Stalinist Russia. You are a passionate entrepreneur. There they are completely against capitalism. You are a capitalist without any kind of, bad intentions. You are ready to form a company or a factory which ensures the welfare. You are ready to sponsor the education of the children of the laborers. See, there will be people like that. You are getting 80% means they feel in long term. When you have, the goals like you see, it's a socio, you are somebody is getting trained in your organization, company, getting trained. Labor वो तो skill to develop होगा ना. And after some time, what is the point in fighting with them? Can strike a middle path, no? So it's better embrace. People in rational self-interest will be thinking like that as well, no? Why companies, if you have any corporate experience, when you are, जब तक तुम resignation नहीं दोगे, the company will show as if, we will recruit somebody else in your place. If you don't play any kind of politics that spoils the work culture, you are an asset for that firm. But when you give the resignation means they go to that extent to retain you. Why? Because it's like once somebody is trained, when somebody is not having, playing petty politics in any organization, they will be retained. So why should you bring something to that extent? पहले ही बता दो, you are going to sponsor. That has occurred in many, it is taking place in many companies right from then. Fourier, Owen, some thinkers were there. Owen means he owned a cotton mill and he did, but even though he died in poverty, that's one case. But the scenario is that it still occurs, when they are bothered about the employee. So come back. So if you are a passionate capitalist, you are living in Stalinist Russia, will you have the, it is totally against individualism. You don't have the freedom of speech and expression. This is what John Rawls was telling, right? Freedom consistent with the freedom of others. No freedom of speech and expression. You cannot criticize any of the policies of the state. Manlo, if you do like that, you will be tagged as a bourgeois. No? If you are against, if you speak about individualism, you'll be tagged as bourgeois. That's it. Nothing short of that. This is what happens. So it's tell like, you'll feel like, yeah, state nahi chahiye. I don't need this kind of state. Fine. Or if you are living in, let's say, take another case. Immediately after the advent of capitalism, or you are seeing crony capitalism in its open form, inequality is widening, your political rights in a liberal democracy, right? Democratic system. They are given on paper, you are unable to realize that. Why? Because, the state is controlled by the capitalists. That also can occur. Maybe, like a communist thought, will feel like your state nahi chahiye. A capitalist can also think in some scenario, right? A person can also be victim of a state which endorses capitalist form of economy. Getting right? In both these scenarios, you will feel like state is controlling me unnecessarily. One means it is controlling individualism, in the another one means it existing for Few people and dominating us, just like we saw in Marxism. In this scenario, we will feel like a state we don't need. We need some other forms of human association. And even we will be thinking before the idea of social contract and all originated, that state is known as state of nature. Before that, humanity has existed, right? When we people associate with our friends or strangers, we don't think about the laws or rules. Voluntarily, people will associate. Mutually, people may help. Right? When you drive on the road means even though there is no the traffic light, right? People will cooperate in one way or the other. ये सबको जानना है. People can voluntarily associate. When you bring in an agency in the form of state, at times it dominates beyond a limit. See, religion as a form of organization, many people don't like it. Union as a form of organization, many people don't like it. So why not hate? Some at least in some contexts, state as a form of organization, association. Even in India, you see, maybe during the time of license Raj system means, if you want to start a company or you want to get electricity at your home or the telephone landline connection at your home means, it will be normalized that it will take a lot of time. Simple paper, if you go to some offices, it varies. If you go to passport office means, the idea of citizen charter best manifested. Very quickly you will get. Thing varies. In some places like village office, taluk office, there means not, generalizing, but issues will be there. Some old post offices. So we'll feel like, yaar, इनको तो एक चिट्ठी तो देना है. Why they are making us walk this much? Attestation. Earlier, there used to be when you write mains, you need to get your degree certificate and all attested by a gazetted officer. यार, क्यों चाहिए? अगर if somebody is reaching to that level means that person would have passed. In case not passed, इंटरव्यू के टाइम में निकाल देंगे. क्या प्रॉब्लम है? अननेसेसरी. That's the case. Unnecessarily self attestation, that is enough. That is change now, because state, if it cannot change, at times even we people as well feel this many number of procedures. Right? What I am saying is this association state, sometimes everyone feels that it's an unnecessary evil, at least in circumstances. Or maybe during the time of World War, in the name of nationalism, state is waging the war. In the name of nationalism, state is forcing you to be part of that war. Or state is in the name of conquering or civilizing some group of people, they are making you a colony. State is doing everything. Right? In such scenarios, you may feel like state is an unnecessary evil. There are some types of it. Let's say Gandhian thought. Gandhian thought, Gandhian philosophy. Gandhian philosophy means when you see the Gandhian studies program or the materials, the material in the universities like IGNO. अच्छा material hai. I have read it actually. So, there they say like Gandhian thoughts are scattered actually in different places. Even Gandhiji even touches, Mahatma Gandhi touches through Vedanta and all, here and there. But Gandhian Vedanta cannot be compared with that of Swami Vivekananda, Radhakrishnan. Not that kind of metaphysical depth is there that we need to acknowledge. But Gandhiji as a political philosopher, moral philosopher, that assumes precedence. Right? Philosophy means even though he makes use of some Vedantic idea and all, even he credits some of Vivekananda's writings as an influence. Or he cites certain examples from Puranas and different religions. So moral philosophy largely. Okay. So here, any thought of Gandhiji is centered around is a fundamental belief. What I have felt is fundamental belief that human beings are intrinsically good. Intrinsically good, that's it. By birth, human beings are good. That's a positive thought, actually. At least we don't know whether human beings are good or bad, but it's an optimistic thought, right? When we think a lot about, what is right, what is wrong, it's likely that we may slip into the nihilistic zone. There is no rights and wrongs, anything can be justified, right? When we discussed existentialism, I was telling, if you arrive at the conclusion that there is no inherent purpose in this life, there is no intrinsic rights or wrongs, yeah, that's a kind of philosophical suicide. Maza nahi aayega jeevan. That's it. Something should be there. Something should be there rather than nothing. Right? So Gandhian thought means it's like fine. Human being means intrinsically good. Right? Every thought is centered around that. And Satyagraha, principle of Satyagraha, right? Truth, sticking on to truth. Ahimsa, right? See how Gandhiji is occasionally invoking Vedanta. He says like everything is divine. Every human being in this world is divine. So if you are hurting another person means it's hurting you, like Brahman. No scope to write that. Satyagraha, truth, non-violence. In case somebody is practicing falsehood or inflicting violence upon you, how should you respond? Since you know the truth that everybody is divine, you cannot hurt others. You need to convince others, persuade others. When you try to persuade others, convince others, again, if they are, turning impatient and assaulting you, understand, you should hate the evil, not the evildoer. Evil means duty of any satyagrahi to convince others peacefully that truth and non-violence are eternal principles. Even though it seems utopian, it tried to demonstrate in the Indian independence movement. Demonstrate, I won't say that they met with their outcomes. Demonstrate, whether it may be Rowlatt Satyagraha, whether it may be non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience, not that much in Quit India, but try to demonstrate voluntary change. Why human beings are good? We need to speak the truth. Even in ethics as well, you see, he believes in eternal values, universality of certain values. If you are going to secure the freedom of a nation by violating these values, right? Whatever outcomes, positive outcomes may come, if you are moving in a corrupted means path, that is unethical. Going by an ethical way, if you are not reaching the desired outcome, that still is ethical, right? Philosophy is not about outcome. It's about sticking out to some means. Just saying, the human character, personality, traits are like that. Human beings are intrinsically good. And you know about Sarvodaya. The name itself suggests Sarvodaya, Sarva Udayam, rise of all. See, if somebody is poor, materialistically poor, and maybe he is not fallen in the moral sense, he needs some upliftment, right? Like alleviation of poverty, education. Who should contribute to that? The ones who are rich, the ones who have surplus money, they should contribute. First of all, why do you need the state? You need the state because you need to ensure order in the society. State will create laws or rules, and based on that, it will create order in the society. Do you need such an agency which has got some sort of unfettered power, authoritative power to ensure order? Won't human beings cooperate among themselves? If human beings are good, they will cooperate among themselves. To some extent, contractarians, whether it may be Rousseau, whether it may be Rawls, they will be, to some extent, they will be agreeing with Gandhi. Right? Even though there is no traffic signal when two vehicles are coming from the opposite side, people will, at least in rational self-interest, they will cooperate. Let's say, a person in his 80s is driving in the car. वो अगर 10 फुट पीछे जाएगा, the other person can go. Other person has to travel 100 meter. Normally, he will take reverse, but unable, he's struggling. So maybe the other person, since he needs to go, without getting angry, he will assist him to take reverse. ले लिया चला गया. That is in rational self-interest. Na? It's not like, you'll be annihilating, usko, मारेगा, चला गया, ऐसे कुछ नहीं. Just saying that. This is how these people say. But Gandhiji believes that at our core, na, we are full of empathy. We are, really good. We have two faces. One face is real, other face is created by circumstances due to ignorance. We are divine. We are all Brahman. Okay. Anyhow, so it's like Gandhian views, you don't need a law. See, suppose people naturally cooperate. Roommates, hostel roommates. If you had good roommates, you will understand. Maybe if you are bad, if you are the bad one, odd one out in that, black sheep in that, don't admit that, claim that you are good. Right? If good means you don't need any kind of account managing system. You are sure that, एक दूसरे को cheat नहीं करेगा बस. Everybody is bothered about others. You don't need order. होता है ना, when you naturally cooperate, when people naturally cooperate in a constructive way, suddenly somebody is giving you advice and creating law like this is the way you should cooperate among yourselves. अच्छा नहीं लगेगा ना. Naturally, we are in a good constructive relation. Some external agency is coming and teaching us. Maybe the other cooperation would be better. Open communication. Knowing each other's better. So simply Gandhiji feels you don't need an external agency in the form of state to make people cooperate amongst themselves. For order, you don't need law. Absence of law does not imply absence of order. Where is he fixing it? In the innate goodness of human being. You may ask how the economic system is going to function. Who will ensure the redistribution of wealth? Redistribution means some people will be richer, some people will be poor. The richer ones, they don't treat themselves as, let's say, factory owner. They don't treat themselves as the owners. Cooperatives are there na, in India in different fields. Cooperatives, they treat themselves as the trustees or good managers. They will be happy. They won't possess beyond a limit. Good of one is contained in good of all. Means, yeah, means it's like human beings are social animals. Everybody's life is interconnected with each other. And Gandhi says, like, every job has its dignity. Other principle of Sarvodaya, it can be brought out. Every job has its dignity. Certain jobs we tend to say that this is better, this is worse. Job of a cobbler is as worthy as that of a lawyer. Every job has its dignity. Everybody is contributing something to the society. That's true, actually. That's true. So everything has dignity. So in such a society, nobody will say that you are doing this work, I am doing more superior work. It's a teamwork, right? And you think philosophically means karma or action is something which is sacred. Duty. Duty is an end in itself. होता है ना, it's like when we say intellectual work is superior to physical work, a natural tendency will be there. We'll say like this laborer, I am the designer. Gandhi, even in his autobiography, somewhere writes like, that discusses the concept of bread labor, inspired from biblical idea. Bread labor means one has to do that much amount of physical work, equivalent to what is, consuming a day. यार ये होता है ना, why do people involve in laborious work? To have bread. आपको बिना फिजिकल वर्क से आपको मिल रही है प्योरली आउट ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअल वर्क. Still we need to realize when you have a tendency to think like labor physical work is inferior in comparison with other kind of intellectual work, we need to do at least for the amount of food that we are eating. तब जिम जाने का जरूरत नहीं है. People tend to burn calories ना. Gandhi actually writes it in one among his writing. I was surprised to see, not now, 3 4 years back when I was reading somewhere, I don't exactly remember. It's like people go for rich people go for gymnasium in order to reduce the fat. But bread labor यही है ना. I think in gym they are telling ना जितना calorie खाते हो उतना you need to burn. That is bread labor. But don't write it as the contemporary relevance and all. They are all principles of Sarvodaya. Because of this, we will be physically better. We won't see physical work as something which is inferior. We start respecting every jobs. And we slowly tend to move away from the sense of ownership. Life, minimalism. Minimalism. Right? Minimalism, you might have seen, might have read somewhere a quote like, nature has everything to satisfy human needs, but not the greed. Read it, na? Suna hai na? Gandhi was a critic of in 1909 while traveling in ship from South Africa to England. He wrote the book Hind Swaraj, and in that work he criticizing what is known as the Western model of development, which was basically about prevailing over the nature. This compared to big, intense appetite for natural resources. Consumerism. Consumerism means, yeah, it's like, yeah, if you are having X 5, 6 pair of dresses or chapel, if you have surplus money, किसी को दिखाने के लिए खरीदना है क्या? Yeah, or if you are having some mobile phone or pen or something, आपका काम अच्छा चल रहा है तो extra maybe we don't need to buy actually. See, not strictly Gandhian, but still it's normal. So when people, whether it may be for different functions, when we become extravagant, then their pressure, who is bearing the entire pressure of it? The nature is bearing the entire pressure of it. And this during the time of First World War, capitalism, one among the criticisms against capitalist economy is like recession, a great depression was the recession. Great, that is known as Great Depression. Factories produced a lot, but nobody was there to purchase them. Production was there, no demand. People didn't have people became minimalistic then. I'm not saying it as a justification of Gandhian thoughts. It's used elsewhere, but you see. So is Gandhian development model means it's a bit extreme. Rather than mass production, he supported production by the masses. Charka, a symbol of that, right? Symbol of that. Okay, just think. Marxian thought thinking DPSP is a way of creating false consciousness. Yeah, it can be definitely. See, DPSP means that comes under evolutionary socialism. No? Evolutionary socialism. State, through state intervention, welfare can be brought in. That's true. See, communism is the end of Marxian thought, where there is no private property, no any kind of institutions. Socialism, broadly defined, if you go by dictionary definition, where the means of production are collectively held by the society. Means of production means machine, factory, land, everything. Socialism has got, we cannot simply go by the dictionary definition of socialism. At least three different styles we have seen. In that, Marxian socialism, or this, we can say, if you are asking me what is Marxian socialism, that's actually dictatorship of proletariat. Whereas if evolutionary socialism, as you raised the doubt, Marx will say that it cannot be treated, as socialism at all. And utopian socialism. So styles are there. Communism means stateless society. Socialism means not necessarily that there is no state. Okay. Yeah, why not realism between optimism and pessimism? If you see Rawls and Rousseau, I would say it's a kind of middle path. It means human beings are good in self-interest, but not so selfish. Yes, that is the reason by state intervention. See, Gandhiji means he was against centralized form of rule, deeply centralized form of rule. Means you should consider Gandhi not as a big political scientist, an endorser of different critic of different political theories or not as an EA. Belong to an era of colonialism where he had witnessed, not of negativities. So better he beyond our scope, there was a model known as Aundh, AUNDH, in Maharashtra near Satara. In 1940s, it was a princely state. There, the experiment of stateless society or decentralization, what you call as the panchayat, giving power to people, idea of Swaraj. You can browse it, AUNDH. That was explored by Gandhi. So he was an advocate of um, decentralization. That's it. Okay. So state may reduce collaboration means naturally if you are collaborating, a centralized rule means it can act as a kind of hindrance as well. वो तो होगा ही जिम ना bread labor mean yeah for work. See, bread labor means it's like you should consume only that amount of food proportional to your sweat. उसका inverse सोचो जितना खाते हो उसका उतना काम करना है बस if you are rich then only we will get to know. See, if you are poor means you are bound to work. Rich means you should know that you should understand that labor is not inferior. That's all. Yeah, Gandhi, simple living and high thinking. For example, if somebody imagine if you have a friend मतलब है कि पूरा टाइम सोता रहता है तामसिक गुना फुल ऑफ तामसिक गुना नहाता नहीं है कपड़ा मिनिमल कपड़ा एंड एवरी टाइम ही इज ड्रीमिंग ये करना है वो करना है. आई नो समवन तो उससे पूछा कि बोल रहा है कि दिस इज सिंपल लिविंग मैं ज्यादा कपड़ा नहीं पहनता हूँ हाई थिंकिंग पूरा टाइम मैं सोचता रहता हूँ. या सी चरखा सी गांधी जी symbol of charkha. Charka as a symbol of empowerment was criticized by everyone. His contemporaries, they are potential mains questions actually. Gandhi versus Bose, Gandhi versus Ambedkar, Gandhi versus Subhash Chandra Bose, Gandhi versus Tagore. It's our own Poochli actually. Many times they were expected one way or the other. All of them were invariably critical of treating Charka as a symbol because you see whether in socialism or capitalism, humanity has invented this much. Then why should we go back to something else? Right? Yeah, Nehru, that's true. Gandhiji versus Nehru not being asked. So this is his idea. Gandhian philosophy is generally believed to be utopian, conflict resolution. When we see in one or two classes, when we see theories of punishment, there as well reformative theory. Many people support reformative. Gandhian thought means largely reformative only. Why someone should support a reformative theory? Because reformation means what? You are committing a crime. It's not you who has committed that. Hate the evil, not the evildoer. Evildoer is in its original form is good only. Generally, Indian philosophical systems who accept soul, they do believe that, no? Intrinsically, whether it may be Jainism, whether it may be anyone, any system, intrinsically good. Right? We'll see one more topic is there. Gandhi versus Ambedkar debate. Varna. There we can better see that. So it's okay, no? You got the idea, no? This is the basic thought. So Gandhian anarchism, you see in its methodology in the colonial state, Gandhi was well trained in South Africa. Well trained means it was not a voluntary training, natural training. Instead, it trained him. This is why South Africans say, "You gave us a barrister, we returned back a Mahatma." So that experience, right? Ground level experience is all it's different. And even after coming to India, Bharat Darshan in third class tickets. First class ticket to Google was telling like, "यार मैं खरीद के दे दूंगा तुमको." But Gandhi ji wanted to travel in third class. Okay. So after that, you see when participating in Champaran Satyagraha, while others were bothered about law, violation of law, thinking about it, Gandhiji always took it as an opportunity to violate the law, you see, during the colonial period. That's a basic methodology, actually. Even in the non-cooperation movement, there was one, segment. If we are not getting the Swaraj in this much time, we will start civil disobedience. What is civil disobedience? It's actually in a colonial rule, you are violating the law. State is creating something is violating. And you see, before any movement, Gandhi used to write a letter, chitti likhte the, to the viceroy. These are our intent. Till the last moment, the opponent needs to be given a choice to reform. Right? In 1930 means there was something like 11 point, request demands. Some consistency is there, to large extent consistency. So after that, violating law. If a law is unethical, it needs to be violated. See, state is creating something means it need not be always right. Right? In all the moments it was violated. And the Gandhian ashrams where they had to take some pledge, oaths, शपथ लेना पड़ता था. Very tough. So there people used to cooperate. Charka as a symbol, people used to cooperate. And the capitalists, Gandhi encouraged them to create better working conditions. That is the idea of trusteeship. I won't say that it will always work, but still, somehow it operated here and there. Swaraj, complete control over oneself, self-control, first thing. Then people, when you control yourself, you will associate with others. Minimalism means there won't be much competition. Minimalism means competition. If you are content with minimal, definitely it's going to reduce the burden on nature. Baki means थोड़ा बहुत काम करो सुबह, then you are free. You can participate in spiritual activities. If you heard Gandhi say, right? When you visit small towns in the midst of this competition, small town like small villages, people occasionally romanticize ना, देखो यार उनका लाइफ बहुत अच्छा होता है, this life is better, वो तो लगेगा. But which is better? You are in something, you are aspiring for something, but still you are maintaining your calmness, composure. So Gandhi aspires that kind of life which is in harmony with nature, minimalism. Then there are less conflicts, no? Less conflicts. Consumerism not only conflicts, competition between human beings, the final burden will be on the nature. Fine. In fact, Gandhism and the communist society, the culmination point is the same. Even without state, this is known as Ramarajya, Gandhian idea of Ramarajya, where people, won't hate the evildoer, they only hate the evil. And this evil, when they hate, they persuade the evildoer through the principles of Satyagraha. They will speak truth. They are minimalistic. There is no unnecessary competition between them. When we are going by our voice of conscience, Antaratma, from there, all moral principles originate. People will cooperate, that's all. Swaraj, Gram Swaraj. Gram Swaraj means it's like everybody is having a say in governance. Small units, everything is divided into small units. In the post-independent India, there was Vinoba Bhave, the Bhudan movement. Bhudan movement means it's like the big zamindars or the property owning class. They decided to distribute their property to people who are propertyless. That movement failed. That's a reality. That movement failed, but some attempts have been there. And even in UN as well, when it comes to the idea of sustainable development, Gandhian ideas are being remembered. Mainly because people largely distributed, barren lands, which were not at all fertile. कोई काम का नहीं है. बस you are going to study 15 pages maximum, post independent India. ठीक है ना, उसमें से एक है. Fine. Yeah, no scope for capital punishment. That's true. Fine. Now this is Gandhian thought. Gandhian anarchism. Will it work? अच्छा लग रहा है सुन के. Will it work actually? I won't say that it will not work. See a big movement, non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. Outcome was not there, but it took place. Na, a mighty empire. Gandhian thoughts are in cultural reference. Gandhian thoughts, I would say, was best expressed in this Munnabai Part 2. And during those times, Lageraho Munnabai was screened in UN as well. Gandhigiri. Gandhigiri means there are many instances are there. Through humor, has been explained. Again, explain करने का जरूरत नहीं. We will miss out the time. Okay. And there are other branches of anarchism. We need to just know that actually. You see, if not state, if you are asking a capitalist, if not state, then how the order can be brought about? If not state. See, imagine you as a capitalist in a socialist nation, not even socialist, maybe India before the LPG reforms. So much procedures we won't like actually. What is the alternate? We need to bring order. No? That's a kind of utopian thought only. There they say like, the market system, the invisible end of market that will take care of everything. See, I would say anarchism as a kind of reaction to high-handedness of state, that's all. Rather than a constructive idea, it's a kind of thought on how it should be ruled. A state shall rule, that's it. And also in human beings, there are natural tendency to associate. Once there was a question asked during the COVID times, will the COVID pandemic result in anarchism? Good question for now. But if you are writing the exam, it's good question. नहीं है. Right? पता नहीं चलेगा क्या लिखना है. See, in both sides, normal sense anarchism will it arise or not? Because there is no state. But we can see other forms of association. Residential association, different, blood donor camps, they were associating. Fine. Tolstoy also supported some anarchist thought. So he was telling like, if you follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, you can see, in the inspiration of these kind of thinkers on Mahatma Gandhi. Even Sarvodaya was based on somebody else, known as John Ruskin. He wrote a book, Unto the Last. Gandhian Sarvodaya is inspired by that. Tolstoy's, religious anarchism, thoughts of Jesus Christ. Gandhiji was influenced by that. Rather than a metaphysicist, Gandhi was too religious. Okay, do we need state or not? Based on these discussions, you say. Yeah, survival of the fittest. Yeah, you can use them in essay. So natural thoughts that are coming on. Good thoughts. Yeah, fine. See, when people suggest alternates, right? Religion as an alternate to state. Anarchists mean they are against the idea of sovereign state only. Even the unions, at times the union of doctors, artists, you know, in some elements of anarchism, we can see they feel like state shall not intervene into their domain, their association. Trade union to a state shall not intervene. Somewhat like when you say the pluralistic theory. Na? Okay, for security as well as for welfare. This is what we'll be writing. See, in these papers, you will be getting open questions at times, 20 marker. Do we need state? So it's like we need to incorporate all the views in an argumentative form. State is a necessary evil, state is an unnecessary evil, rather than simply enlisting better flow. Better flow means better marks, better readability. Fine, you have understood. Hmm. Paper two, you will have some some element of freedom that I will show. Since I won't restrict you much in paper two. Some element of restriction means so that you won't deviate. Rest means an element of freedom will be there in writing in certain questions. One means no freedom. ठीक है. Okay, you people have raised punishment. Why should we punish others? Hmm? Who does the punishment? Who executes the punishment? State, right? State gives the punishment. For what? For committing a crime. What is crime? Crime means an act that which deviates from the law created by the state. Had it been philosophy of religion, right? While discussing problem of evil, I would have told sin is something, sin is an action that which deviates from the commandments of God. Same thing. Take the religion, other means state. What are the types of crime? Different crimes. Innumerable number of crimes. Corruption, murder, theft. First of all, why should there be punishment? To tell me. Why punishment? We'll say that should punishment be there or not? Punishment should be there. Why? What is the justification? To maintain social harmony. Deterrence. Deterrence. Punishment should it be proportional? Yeah, सब कुछ चाहिए. Should it be proportional or disproportionate? Right. Suppose you are a school teacher involving in you people only told me Abibi, corporal punishment, teachers beating children, students. होता है। सो प्रोपोर्शनल होना चाहिए, ज्यादा देना चाहिए। यू फॉरगॉट टू राइट द होमवर्क। क्या करना चाहिए? थोड़ा कान पकड़ के बोलना है, अगली बार करके आना बस। और पिटाई करो उसको, यानी कि बाकी लोग भी वो गलती नहीं करेगा। शुड बी प्रोपोर्शन। व्हाट इज द पनिशमेंट फॉर करप्शन केसेस? लो somebody is doing involving in 1,000 rupees corruption बस, 1,000 rupees. Because of that 1,000 rupees, some people lost their lives. पता है ना? He knows the consequences. So disproportional होना चाहिए कि नहीं? 1,000 rupees punishment, okay, in prevention of corruption act. I don't know the exact. I'm not a lawyer. तब तो कुछ तो होगा. Some punishment will be there. और पनिशमेंट सुना है many a times in the judgment you feel like it's too low for bigger crime. Means it's like, it'll say like 1 lakh rupee jurmana penalty and 6 months in jail. Disproportionate, then disproportionate, no? Or if some kind of crime is rampant, very common in a society, it's the next topic. ठीक if there is, if some crime is very common, let's say corruption, if the tendency to normalize corruption is there. Normalization, normalization means यार ये सब चलता है, very common. Hmm? So what you will do? Proportionate or disproportionate? It's proportional to the consequences. That how can we decide? Many a time the consequences won't be intended, na? I will tell the theory, don't worry. You say proportional to consequence rather than action. यार करने के टाइम में उसको पता नहीं होगा outcome. This much outcome will be there. So should we give disproportionate punishment? Hmm. Intention. Intention, okay. Intention के लिए you give proportional. Even law of karma is also proportional. Na? You don't have scope to write it. Proportional. Good deed, good fruit. Bad deed, bad fruit. Bas. Very difficult to say. There are some theories in this actually. Here the idea of justice will come. Idea of justice, earlier we saw this. For corruption, will you suggest capital punishment? Hmm. Corruption, capital punishment. No. Yeah, brick collapse. Because of corruption, security threat अगर आ गया, you need to show ना, it's not a small crime as we believe. Kaudilya during those times prescribed 12 times punishment for this thing. अभी ठीक है. Capital, capital punishment was there in the history. He's there in some places. And if you are giving proportional punishment, what see if you see the outcome, there is a court of Kaudilya regarding corruption. I'll come back to everything. The court of Kaudilya is like, you know, just like you cannot ensure, just like you cannot ensure that a fish in the water, whether it is drinking water or not. Seeing from a distance, we don't know whether it is drinking water or not. Likewise, when the power is in the hands of a public servant who has got the sole authority over utilization of the funds, and these checks and balances are also ensured by the public, sorry, the authorities. How can we know that? Just like we don't know, अभी तो ये नहीं बोलना है कि I know कि fish whether fish is drinking water or not from the river. कह दिया, 2000 years back किसी ने कह दिया. So it's a good example. We don't know. So they collude everyone. There will be an excess between the powerful people. It's not a crime. Corruption means even small amount of corruption means if it is habitual, everybody practices corruption at least to a small extent. The system itself is corrupt. In principle, it exists for the people, and they are giving training even from even from UPSC preparation. You are trained. Conflict of interest अभी से चालू होता है. You are having ethics paper, you are having essay paper, you are you people are having philosophy. मुझे कोई conflict of interest नहीं है because we are going to be public servants ना. I don't have, you have it. ठीक है ना. Potential bureaucrats तो जरूर होना चाहिए. See, so it's like corruption, disproportionate. Many a times it can be justified. So when it comes to theories of punishment, we will see them, everything. One of the views is like retributive theory. Retributive theory says like corruption. Why should one be, so not sorry, not corruption, crime. Crime means generally violating a law. Punishment given, delivered by the state. Why? Just think how law of karma operates. In proportion. You have done mistake, it's natural. Just like Newton's law, it should come. As you are saying, natural justice. Not for any outcome. There is a desired behavior from the society. You are deviating from it. Once you are punished means you are free. No? You are stealing 100 rupees. You are given proportional punishment. Stealing as an act, if you think from Gandhian perspective, Immanuel Kant's perspective, it's an unethical act, or the law is suggesting something proportional. Punishment will give you free. In religions as well, the ideas like repentance, atonement. Atonement मतलब ये होता है कि you know in Gandhi's autobiography, he is writing an instance where he stole a piece of gold and he is writing तो father को वो छुट्टी लिखते हैं by telling sorry and he's crying. When he's crying, Gandhi makes use of a term, not exactly term. It's like it washed away. That tears washed away. The sin, the scar created by the sin. So religions generally believe, when you punish, punishment means it actually relieves on one sense. Release means proportionally. Why should one be punished? Not for any kind of outcome. Since you have done the crime, punishment shall be there. That's it. This is actually deontological theory. Retributive theory means deontological theory. Deontological means what? Punishment is not a means for bringing an outcome. You know these terms, right? I had in between, I would have discussed consequentialist, non-consequentialist. The deontological theory, Kantian ethics comes under non-consequentialism. If you are asking why means there is no outcome, but why is truth is a virtue means virtue. Yeah. Why should you study? Study, it's your duty, bus. That is deontological perspective, right? So when it comes to theory of punishment as well, why should one be punished? These kind of thoughts, you know, ये सब जो है अपना अंदर है. We will think like, यार गलती किया तो उसको सजा मिलनी चाहिए बस. That's it, simply. We occasionally feel, right, the people who commit crime, when they walk without any kind of punishment, walk freely without any kind of punishment, we may tell, like, in this society, there is no justice in this society. लगता है ना, at times when some verdicts, court verdicts and all come for a murder case or something grave, they say like, yeah, whom should we trust? Not given punishment. That's it. If somebody has committed a crime, should be given, punishment. And punishment means we are not demanding for extra punishment or something. Proportional punishment, that's it. That is the belief in justice, retributive justice. Eye for an eye, bus retribution, equal punishment. Seems sensible, no? No outcome. But at times, if you feel like, yeah, punishment means, let's say, the case of corruption, group corruption. Proportional means, let's say, 100 rupees के लिए 100, or let's say 1,000 rupees penalty. But tendency may be there. If proportion is less, there are chances that the crime may recur again. उसके लिए क्या करें? People will be thinking like, यार ठीक है, maximum. If a public servant is thinking after involving in corruption, right? ज्यादा से ज्यादा तो लेके अब क्या होगा उसमें, right? Maximum punishment. Let's do ना. We will manage everything. Maximum they are going to give this much punishment. No problem. This is how things are being normalized. Or will think like they will collude with other public servant apna senior. So if you sincerely want to stop that through punishment, one among you made use of the word dit deterrence. Deterrence means disproportionate punishment. Disproportionate. A public execution दे दो, right? Publicly execute करो. Public servant when they think like कि यार ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्या करेंगे, 6 महीने अंदर करवा देंगे बस. नो, एग्जीक्यूशन disproportionate. Yeah, I think I had told you once. हमारे स्कूल टाइम में a new teacher had come, master came, and सुनने में आया कि in the other division यार, लड़का कुछ बदमाशी किया, मतलब क्लास में होता है ना, यूज टू लॉफ इन द क्लास, कुछ कॉमेडी बोल के पीछे बैठ के, वो तो हुआ होगा सबके साथ. नहीं तो बोर हो जाते हैं ना, इस उम्र में तो नहीं हो सकता है, देन तो. सो वी केम टू नो दैट उसने ऐसे पिटाई किया एक स्टूडेंट का कि वो चल नहीं पा रहा था. एंड नेक्स्ट डे व्हेन ही केम ना, कंप्लीट साइलेंस, एंड वो होमवर्क देने से पहले सब लोग कर लिया उसको. दैट इज डिफरेंस. एंड व्हाट हैपेंड इज लाइक पीपल गेव कंप्लेंट. मतलब यार हम तो कोई, क्या मिलिट्री उसमें टेररिस्ट कैंप में नहीं जा रहे हैं ना कि स्कूल में. तो कंप्लेंट एंड की, आई थिंक द हेडमास्टर टोल कि तुमको निकाल देंगे. एंड आफ्टर दैट हाफ ईयरली एग्जाम केम, ही वाज टीचिंग ज्योग्राफी. एवरीबडी गॉट 50 out of 50. मतलब उसने चेक ही नहीं कि इतना सुधर गया वो. ओके, टुमारो वी विल हैव सेशन.